Hello guys, and welcome back to the third installment in the community draft battles. In this episode we have Foz against Yeondu. If you like what you see in these videos and you would like to get involved, then follow the link in the description down into the Discord. You can join my Discord, and there we have people that are drafting against each other all the time. Every now and again I'll say, can we get someone to do a series, like 3 to 5 drafts for the video? And yeah, but there's people drafting all the time, right? And if you want to be alerted when people are looking for drafts, if you go into the Get Roles channel and tick the little checkbox under the Get the Draft 1v1 role, the Discord bot will automatically give you that role. And then when people ping for it, you'll get pinged and you'll be notified that people are looking for drafts. So yeah, do join the Discord if you want to get involved. Otherwise, enjoy the video. So let's start out. We've got some blue side bands, Ezreal, Poppy, and Braum. To me, this signals a very high desire to play Engage, or at least leave the option open to go into Engage. On primarily, I would say on B2, B3, because these picks, well, Ezreal I think is just good on here, right? But these two picks in particular, I think these are good R3 answers to early engage. So you can pick it on R3 to answer the early engage. So that's what we're showing on blue side. On red, we're banning some really, really strong power picks. I think these are all very good red bans. Aurora gone, Rumble gone, Ashe gone. Now it depends whether you're classing this as after or before the Aurora hotfix nerfs. Before, I think this is mandatory. After, I think she's kind of good, but not completely broken anymore, because there's the hotfix nerfs and then I think the hotfix buffs, and now she's landed in a place where she's like kind of good, but she's not. I don't think she's going to be must red side ban after the nerfs come in. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at Varus and Ivern. These are things that are not banned and are available, with Ashe, Rumble taken away, Aurora taken away. Those are like my main three: Varus, Ivern, Ashe, Rumble, Aurora. I think this was done maybe after the hotfixes though, so maybe we would say that Aurora would not be one anymore, because of when this draft took place. But yeah, so we got Zeri B1. Zeri's very flexible. If you've watched my pro play reviews recently, I think twice we've seen Zeri, or maybe just the once. I think it was a Zeri and an Ezreal, right? Zeri and Ezreal are very kind of similar. They're very mobile carries that love playing front to back, but they can also slot into poke comps quite easily. Zeri with the W. Zeri's got very high range on her Q. She also has 800 range on the activation of her R, and if she's not in range, she can always dash in with the E. And also the one component that gives Zeri more range is that if Zeri's standing here, and this is the enemy front line, and this is the enemy back line, right, and this is a 500 range gap, and this is a 500 range gap, then these guys are 1,000 units away, but by hitting these, the bouncers from her ult will hit these as well. So she's actually hitting you despite being further away from you than her actual range. So Zeri's a very, very good champion for flexing sort of disengage / range. So into that, we end up going for Sejuani and Corki. Now, what I don't like about this R1, R2, while I do think they're both very good champions individually, is that they want to do completely different things. So Sejuani really wants to go forwards. Corki kind of can go forwards, but he much prefers playing backwards, playing a slow game, playing around his rockets and his rapid fire cannon autos, letting the enemy come into his space where he's in control, Wing backwards, creating more space. Whereas Sejuani mostly wants to go in. The other thing is that Sejuani really likes melee champs. I did 2 Ls again. I did this in one of my last videos. There's only 1 L in melee, guys. Let me turn this into 1 big L. There you go. But Corki obviously is not a melee champ, so he doesn't have that good synergy with her either. And I also don't think Corki Sejuani mid jungle is a very good mid jungle pairing to be playing. Now to answer this, what are we going? We're going Ivern. I really like Ivern into the Corki. It's okay into the Sejuani. Sejuani with some other things can sort of brute force its way into the Ivern if you don't have enough disengage tools on your team. But it's very good into Corki. It basically nullifies everything that Corki wants to do. It nullifies his damage. We saw this with Top Esports versus Gen G at the Esports World Cup. And then we go Leona. I think Leona is, it's a solid support. It can pair nicely in lane with the Zeri, but the Zeri can also go mid. And then Leona Ivern, this is a really, really potent combo. So if you're not aware why Leona Ivern is so powerful, basically Leona's defensive capabilities, instead of coming from something like shields, like a Rel does, or like a Blitzcrank, his defense comes from shields as well. Her or just like amassing HP, like a Tom Kench can gain extra HP. Is a shield, I guess. But you see what I mean? A lot of Nautilus is a shield as well. Leona gains resistances. Now, resistances are really good when paired with Ivern, because Ivern's giving you a lot of shields and heals. So if you've got a big health bar, he's shielding you proportionally for less because your health bar is big, right? Whereas if you've got a small health bar with a lot of resists, so it takes longer to move each point of your health, then each point of Ivern's shield and heals is worth more. So Leona with W active with an Ivern shield on her is really, really hard to get through. So Leona Ivern is one of the best combos that we're seeing at the moment. So far I'm definitely favouring blue. The other champion that does this quite well with the Ivern is Alistar, but his ult is way more temporary. But he is very, very durable with Ivern shield on him in ult. To some extent, there's also Braum with his E up. Ivern Braum you can play. Okay, on 3 we go Senna. So we don't really have a Senna pairing yet. I guess it's possible you could play Sejuani, but you're not playing Senna Corki. That's not happening. We do have options. It gives us options going later into the draft. But yeah, the problem I have with Senna is that she wants to play in a very similar way to Corki, which is the way that Ivern is very, very adept at dealing with. And also we're going to need some sort of disengage themed support, I think, to make the lane survivable against Leona. I mean, I think Nautilus would probably be okay too. And to be honest, Ornn would too, actually. No, I don't think you need to worry about the lane matchup because you're expecting Zeri. Although if they go Leona and then they put Zeri mid and then they play like a Draven or something, you do need to be careful of that as well into the Senna. If you're trying to play something kind of weak, like Senna Ornn's quite weak early, right? So Draven Leona might punish that quite hard. From here, I do think blue are favoured because a lot of this is nullified by this, and this combo's really good. You've got this flexibility. I think there's less flexibility on blue now because there's no way this is going bot. And on red, sorry, there's no way this is going bot. You would expect this to go jungle. That's like the best role for Sejuani by far. Next, we're looking at bans. We're banning out Jax and we're banning out Tristana. So with the Tristana ban, we're assuming this Zeri's going bot lane. We're banning for Trist mid, although we could also be banning for Trist Leona. I guess Trist would be a decent... I think Trist is probably just a worst Raven in this spot, though. I guess Draven's kind of vulnerable into Sedge, but with Ivern, I don't think he needs to worry too much. The Jax... I'm not entirely sure why we're banning Jax. I guess because we have 2 auto-attackers for damage. But it's very hard to pick Jax, I feel, on blue side, because you would have to pick top here, and then he can counter with Jax, because if you blind Jax, you can counter Jax with some of his harder matchups on 4-5. On R5, sorry, not 4-5. If you pick Jax on 4-5, you can counter with some of his harder matchups on R5. We end up going for Nidalee, so I'm not sure if this is... Let me check the Discord. I'm not sure whether this is going AD Nidalee top, or whether it ends up being Sejuani jungle. I don't think it doesn't say the lane assignments. But we end up going with Yone and Cassante. So Yone does a similar thing to what I was expecting Draven to do. It's like an aggressive AD mid. And it's going to have a great time into the Corki. It's going to have a great time into the Senna. It's going to have a great time into the Nidalee. The only thing that it doesn't really like is the Sejuani. But also here we're still playing Sejuani with absolutely 0 melee champs. So Sejuani has very little synergy, and she's not going to be able to protect these champions on her own from Leona, from Yone. And then we also end up going for Cassante. I think this is a very safe blind. I think in this scenario against this, I would prefer Ornn blind. Because I think Ornn is much better at going forward than Cassante is, which is what we're looking to do here and here. Or we could also go for Zac. Zac would give us some more magic damage, which we don't have a great deal of right now. Ornn would also give us more magic damage, right? We could also go Zac. I think Zac is the best engaged tank in top lane. Poppy's already banned as well, which is one of the things that Zac struggles with. The other would be Alistar he struggles with, but Alistar is support only, and I guess you are thinking this is probably going to be support because you have top jungle, mid AD. So you're thinking this is support, but I'm thinking this is going to be like Nautilus or Ornn. Could potentially be Neela. I think Neela might be pretty good for the Senna Neela lane. It's very, very auto heavy actually. Auto attacks, auto attacks, auto attacks, auto attacks, auto attacks, stun. Here you've got the Daisy auto attacks. So I do think Neela might be the best R5. And then we would end up playing Sedge top into the K'Sante. We would play Nidalee jungle, which is quite nice into the Ivern, although it helps to have push. Corki can get pushed early into the Yone, but eventually Yone starts getting the push by threatening to kill him. But I do think that Senna Neela would get pushed into Zeri Leona. Not in the first couple of waves, but after that, because they get level advantage, they have range advantage, and Leona can't really engage onto Neela. She would have to engage onto Senna. So I do think Neela would be our best R5, but we end up going for Gwen, which gives us some really awkward lane assignments. It has to be Gwen top into K'Sante, which is fine. It's not really a bad lane for K'Sante, honestly. The lane is completely playable. It's just that she outscales in the side lane and in the team fights. But the problem we have is that there is only Sejuani stopping our carries here, and Nidalee to some extent from dying to this, this, and this, with Zeri just following up, and Ivern is just shielding this guy and this guy and this guy. So there's not really a lot of disengaged tools. There is only Sejuani, like a defensive Sejuani. Gwen really likes being run into, don't get me wrong, but there's no actual tools to like stop the engage. They're kind of just going to go past Gwen and kill these guys and then kill Gwen afterwards. It also means you're playing like Senna Sejuani bot into your Leona Zeri, which I think is a lot weaker than what we could have ended up with. So yes, I do think we could go Neela, and that would be a lot better, but I think regardless, just based on what we've picked already, I'm definitely giving this one to blue. So the first round goes to the blue draft. Let me grab the next one. Here we go. Okay, second draft. Blue side bans. Ezreal, Brand, Zyra. These are all kind of range. I'd say they're all like range X disengage, sort of somewhere between the two, which would signal that we're looking to try and play probably some sort of front to back team fight comp, whether it be engage or disengage. We're looking to play some form of front to back comp. On red, we're banning 3 very strong champions. Zeri I do like. Ashe and Ivern are 2 of my top 4. With Aurora dropping out, my top 4 are Ashe, Ivern, Rumble, and Varus. Speaking of, we go Rumble B1. I really like Rumble B1. I like it more when Ashe is available, but I do still like it when Varus is available, because Rumble Varus is a really nice pairing, and I'll talk about that in a second. But Rumble, obviously this is a top support flex, and like potential for jungle and mid. But it's pretty much only top support. The great thing about Rumble is that it can play in a variety of ways, right? If you're playing poke, it can poke with ease and equalizer. A well-placed equalizer can really cause some damage into a lot of comps. If you're playing engage, it drops the equalizer on top. If you're playing disengage, it creates space with the equalizer and the Q. Rumble's really flexible in terms of theme. He can play however he wants, and we're also flexible in terms of role. Now, to deny Rumble Varus, which I think would be really good, we end up picking up Varus here. So I really like this Varus pick here because it denies what I think would be the best line. Like the best line, I think. I'll talk about the other champion that I would pick on B2, B3. But yeah, we also pick up Talia. Rumble is signaling like potentially we're going engage. Talia is sort of like a disengage range hybrid, which is kind of what we were banning here, right? Varus is very much the same, but he's got a splash of engage. This is what I like about Varus so much, by the way. He's a role flex with top and AD carry, and he's also a theme flex. Because as much as people talk about Lethality Varus being dead, I don't think it is completely dead. I think it is genuinely playable. Like, more amount of opportunity is still very strong in terms of poke. It's just not quite as good as it used to be. But obviously there's the new build as well, the top lane build, and then there's also just the standard AD carry, like, on-hit build. He can play in pretty much every... He has so many modes and 2 roles that he can flex into. Talia, this is a jungle mid-flex. And we can go pretty much with this. We can play for range, we can play for kite back, we can play for engage. We can go in any direction with this. It's a really, really flexible one too. We also have magic damage and physical damage. Although depending on how you build Varus, this can also be magic. So we might want to pick up more physical later. Especially if this is Varus top, then this is going to be magic damage, and this is magic damage. So we're going to want to pick up some physical later in the draft. Okay. On to B2, B3. So what I would have really liked is Varus. The other thing I really like with Rumble, we saw last draft with Corki, but it wasn't ideal. But here it is ideal, is Sejuani. Sej is really good with Rumble. If I can ever get like B1, B2, B3, or R1, R2, R3, Sej, Rumble, and Ashe, that is like god comp to me. But Sej Varus Rumble is also really good. Now, we don't have either of those available, so it would be Rumble Sej, and then we're looking for some sort of... I would probably look for maybe... The difficulty is that there's not too many melee mids that are great into Talia. Though I do think... Maybe we just pick AD carry, actually. So we want an AD carry that's good with Rumble. I can't into this. I kind of like MF. You could play MF Rumble. You could also play... Yeah, I wouldn't want to play Samira. Maybe MF. Maybe Draven. But I would probably be looking for... Either way, I would be looking for, I think, Sejuani plus AD carry. So Sej, ADC. You could also just go like a very, very standard Jinx. But I don't think it's as good as some other things have better upside. Ezreal's banned, Zeri's banned, Ashe is banned. The AD carry pool is quite clinched. You could potentially play Caitlyn. See what other AD carries are available. Oh, you could play Kalista Rumble too. Kalista might be quite good. If we're going Sejuani, Rumble, Kalista, we could do that. The difficulty then is that I think we're quite vulnerable to Braum or Poppy. Like very, very heavy disengage picks down there. But yes, we have options. We could also pick an ADC that can flex mid, right? We could do Tristana, maybe, or... Yeah, I don't think Lucian... Oh, maybe like a Jhin. Maybe Rumble Sejuani Jhin. That could be quite good. Now, Jhin doesn't flex mid, but it's really nice with the Rumble. So yeah, maybe Jhin is... Maybe I think it's like Ashe is number 1 with the Rumble, and then number 2 would be Varus, and then number 3 I'm thinking like Jhin or Kalista. The Kalista, when you play it with Rumble, is a lot of the time going to be the lethality Kalista. It's a lot stronger in lane, and it functions more as like a poke champ than a kiteback disengage champ. And I think it's better at going forward than the on-hit Kalista, which is better at going backwards. So yes, that's what I would look for. Instead, we end up with Corki. I'm just talking a lot about this because Rumble is one of my favorite picks, right? This is the line that I normally draft. I'm a big fan of the Rumble line. Instead, we end up with Corki Poppy. So this is basically now showing that we're playing full disengage. But the problem with full disengage here is that we have quite a lot of range on the side of red. All we need to do on red, I think, is incorporate... I would try to incorporate more range into our draft. But for now, we can just stay flexible, because it is possible that we could just like move away from this Poppy and have kind of a weird Poppy and keep playing engage into range. So we do need to... I would start picking up like our own disengage tools and just more range. With this, I think we're favored on red right now. We go Leona. Leona's a really stable support. I do think there are better things we could pick here. Let me think. Like, although we are blinding support technically, and Leona is going to do like okay into Rumble support if we do end up going for something like Rumble Jhin. Varus Leona is going to be okay. So yeah, Leona's fine. It's the champion that's just very, very strong individually. I've picked up a lot because of that. Okay, so here we are banning out Braum and Renata. These are two champions that are playing the support role and are disengage themed. We're showing intent to play engage. Well, I mean, we've already got Leona, right? So kind of part of that is just banning for support matchup. On blue, we're banning out Cassante and Jax. These are primarily disengage themed, but can flex into pretty much any comp. Top lane champs, I don't know Why though? Because currently we have two champions that can go into top lane. We have Rumble and Poppy, and they are both favored in both of these matchups. So the bans don't really make much sense to me on blue. We end up going for Graves. This solidifies, I think, that we're playing Graves in the jungle with Talia in the mid, which leaves left our AD carry top flex. So this is going to be, the R5 is going to be AD carry or top, and that will determine where Varus goes. So what do we got now? I feel like we're more disengaged, or like we're just like very front to back right now with this. Very, very front to back. Then we end up going for Kai'Sa. This is a blind Kai'Sa in the bot lane. Probably being paired with... I suppose it's being paired with either Poppy or Rumble, but I don't think Kai'Sa Rumble's any good, so it's probably going to be Kai'Sa Poppy. Kai'Sa's just not a great AD carry to pair with Rumble. And then we're picking up Lilia. So we have Lilia Corki. I think this is pretty good. Rumble Lilia, I also think this is pretty good. Poppy's very, very disconnected. Because these guys all want... Like, these two want to go forward. Corki's dropping rockets on it. Kai'Sa wants to go forward. Poppy just kind of feels lost. So Poppy's really weird in this draft. Finally, we pick up Draven. Now, the reason I like the Draven so much is that it's Draven into Kai'Sa. This just completely shits on her. And with Leona as well into either one of these supports, they're just going to be absolutely stomping bot lane. We also have a fairly neutral mid lane with Talia into Corki, and then also we either have Varus into Rumble, which is winning, or we have Varus into Poppy, which is winning even harder. It's probably going to be Varus into Rumble, but it's winning. So we have winning top, we have neutral mid, we have really, really hard winning bot, and then we have Graves. I'm not really a big fan of the Graves, to be honest. I think I would prefer something else. What would I prefer? What would I prefer here than Graves? I think Kindred does like the same thing but better than Graves here. I feel like Graves can struggle to get into range. He can kind of struggle to follow some of this stuff. So can Kindred, but she's got longer range, and then she brings the Kindred ult for like the Rumble ult and the Lilia sleep and stuff. Alternatively, maybe Viego I would like as well as an AD jungle here. Viego sounds pretty good with the Varus and the Talia, and also Leona. I think I'd prefer Viego. The good thing about the engage tools that Red have is that they're kind of non-committal. So you can just throw out a Varus ult, right? You can just throw out a Talia W, you can just throw out a Leona ult. And if these things don't hit, you're not going all in. Which into Poppy, this is the only style of engage that really works. Because let's say this Leona was a Rel, right? This Rel engage is very committal. If you try and Rel engage into Poppy, it gets W'd, and then it gets blocked, and you lose. Whereas this engage is really, really executable with the Leona ult into Talia W or Varus R into Talia W. You're kind of playing more like a pick comp than anything here. But you just have really, really strong lanes in general across the board. And Talia has a lot of freedom as well to move around and play around Draven, particularly, or Varus. So I think I like red. I don't like red as much as I liked blue last time. I think there are difficulties for red, like trying to get past Poppy. The main strength I see is Draven completely obliterating Kai'Sa. But I do think things like Rumble Lilia can definitely make picks onto Varus, or even Talia, or can even catch out Graves in the jungle, stuff like this. I think red have a lot they can do. Blue, sorry, have a lot they can do, but I do think red is slightly favored overall. Okay, let's find the third draft. Opening browser. On the wrong screen. Okay. Ashe, Zeri, Rumble. So these are two of my top 4 gone already. Ezreal, Poppy, Braum. These are the same as we saw in game 1. These bans signaling some sort of engage comp coming in, so that we take away the safest ADC in the game and 2 of the premier disengage tools. So we have no Ashe available, but we do have Varus available. We have no Rumble available. We have Ivern available. Ivern and Varus are in. The others are out. Then we go B1 Ivern. So for me, the best way to draft into B1 Ivern is you want to pick something that can invade into him. The best in the game is Rengar. And then you need to draft lanes that win, that want to go in with Rengar. So you're looking for like engage with Rengar or engage with something that can go in. Now with Poppy and Braum banned and also Ezreal banned, this gets even easier to draft. So I do think the B1 Ivern is kind of vulnerable by nature of its own bans here. I would pick something like Rengar plus maybe Leona. Rengar Leona, because then you deny the Leona from Ivern Leona, and Leona wants to go in with Rengar. But yeah, that's what I would be looking for. We go Varus Nidalee. This works, right? Varus gets lane prio in a lot of bot lanes and almost all top lanes. Nidalee's very good at invading Ivern. Nidalee specifically is what T1 play into Ivern, and they just completely blast it. They just take over the map. They play Caitlyn Lux as well in the bot lane. So what you could do here is you could go Nid Kate, and then you could go for Lux or other support counter on 3. We don't end up doing that though. We go with Varus Nidalee. Now this is pretty good though. I do like this. It can get into Ivern's face and play quite heavily. Then we go Yasuo Leona. So this is Ivern Leona, right? And this is a flex for bot lane and mid lane, which is really nice. We don't know where that's going. We know where these two are going, but it's such a powerful duo that it's not really an issue that we know where it's going. And as long as we have some flexibility, which we do here, we're pretty good. Now, the flexibility we don't really have is that we're signaling that we're going in heavy. However, we're going into R3, and we've already banned out Braum and Poppy. There's stuff like Ali that could come in, but Ali's really bad with the Nidalee invading into the Ivern because Ali doesn't get lane pressure into anyone. A lot of disengaged champs aren't the best at getting lane pressure. You could get something like a Lulu, and Lulu's really good at getting lane pressure, and it's a disengaged team champ, and then you could play Varus Lulu moving in with Nidalee to invade the Ivern. But what we want is prior lanes, right? So what I would probably look for on R3 here is just Renekton. And then the idea is to put the Renekton into the Yasuo, if at all possible. Now, if Yasuo goes bot lane, we can't do that, but we can definitely play Renekton mid with Nidalee jungle into Yasuo. That would be very, very potent. It's also very good into the Ivern because it brings the shield break. So I think Renekton would be much better than Tristana, which is actually a losing matchup into the Yasuo in isolation. As soon as Yasuo gets a few levels, he can really get in her face, play around the wind wall, and he can get push into her and deny her getting push, and they kind of move in even amounts. We end up going Nautilus, so this could be either Trist Nautilus or Varus Nautilus. Either of them into Leona Yasuo, I think, can get push early, but not the best in terms of push, because that's what we want with our Nidalee, right? We want to be able to push and invade this Ivern. Thematically, we're playing sort of range engage here. We're looking to jump in. Nidalee wants to go into Ivern's face. Varus wants to go in. These champs can all kite back. Nidalee's not great at it, but Trist and Varus are pretty good at it. We do have options thematically, and then Nautilus really signals that we're going in. So we're indexing very heavily into engage. In terms of bans, we're banning out Corki and Draven. I'm not sure about Corki. Like Corki, I'm not really bothered about Corki. We can just pick something that gets push into it. Also with Yasuo already shown, you're kind of expecting a solo lane Yasuo, so that lowers the chances of them picking Corki. Draven, I feel like would be better for us. It's a lane that gets pushed into a lot of matchups, and it can go play with Nidalee. It would be better for us than them. But yes, we go Nautilus, and we're signaling very heavy into engage, and then we go Cassiopeia. I think this pick is really, really good. It's great into this, great into this, great into this. It makes it really hard for them to jump in, but they need to go in. We also have so much space controlled with Ivern bushes, so now you have Ivern bushes that you have to find a way into. We do have Nidalee traps and Nidalee spears to check, so we do have something to check. But yeah, that's kind of it. And then we go Misfortune, so we're playing MF Leona. The great thing about MF Leona here is that it's going to get pushed into pretty much anything, into either variation of either Trist Nautilus or Varus Nautilus. It's going to get pushed into both, which is really going to help out our Ivern by having pushing lanes. And let me just talk about why I really like Cassiopeia here. You now have Cassiopeia Yasuo, right? And you're expecting Tristana mid, but Yasuo is also really good into the Varus top as an answer. So what we can do is we can flex our assignment between Yasuo and Cassio. So here we see Malphite. Now I really don't like the Malphite. It's on theme with this, and this. It's going in. But they're not too vulnerable to engage, honestly. Especially with Cassio. And Malphite gets pushed into essentially nothing in top lane. And now we're showing Malphite top. Our pieces are falling into place, right? It's Malphite top, Tristana mid, Varus AD carry. So we put Yasuo into Tristana, which is really good. We put Cassio into Malphite, which is really good. And then into Varus Nautilus, we're playing, like I said before, Leona MF. Just really nice. And then we have Ivern, who's not really getting invaded by the Nidalee anymore and is just going to very, very quickly outpace her. He's also blocking a lot of damage from the range of this. So I think blue win here, but I think if you follow some of the lines that I was talking about earlier, this was definitely very vulnerable based on these bans, because you don't have the option to pick these yourself into things like Rengar. You do like... What did I say was the best with Rengar? Oh yeah, Rengar Leona. I think Rengar Leona would be really nice on R1, R2 into this Ivern. So I'm giving this one to blue. Go into the fourth draft. Okay, here we go. So Ivan's gone, Ash is gone, Zeri ban. Here we got Brand, Ezreal, Leona. So this is quite a mix of bans. Doesn't really give much away. Like this is like range disengage, this is range disengage, this is engage with like a smattering of disengage. Just a generically strong champion. Maybe I'll start putting Leona into my top 4. So like Ivan, Leona, Ash, Rumble, Varus. We go for B1 Aurora. Now I'm considering, for me, I'm going to consider this as like now Aurora. After both sets of hotfixes. So she's just kind of okay. And I think she's really good at like an engage facilitator. And that sort of thing. So we're looking to draft things that can disengage on red side. We go Yasuo Jinx. I'm not so sure about the Yasuo. I guess it would have an okay matchup into the Aurora. So we have that. Wherever Aurora goes, we can try to match it with Yasuo. Jinx is great at kiting back. Jinx is great in a disengage comp. We bring the Chompers, which can stop a lot of things. We go for Kalista Jarvan. So we're very, very heavy into engage here. Which is fine right now, because that's great into Jinx and Yasuo isn't stopping it. The problem is, do you remember these bans that came in here before on the previous draft? They're not there anymore. So now when we index so heavily into engage here, bam, Poppy R3. Poppy is crazy into Jarvan. It can play Poppy support, which is crazy into Kalista. And I mean, it's okay into Aurora, right? I don't know if you can knock people out of the Aurora ult. It's not a blink, so I'd assume you can't. But I've never actually seen that interaction. Moving on, we ban out disengage supports on red. I don't think you want disengage support on red though. I think you want something to just try and find a way in that you don't have already. Maybe like a Blitzcrank, although Blitz into Yasuo is kind of sus. Maybe just Rel. I think Rel. Although Rel into Poppy is also kind of sus. You do have limited options for support here. You could maybe play something like Bard. You could play for picks with Bard. What else could you go? Yeah, I think Blitz is actually fine. I don't think Blitz into Yasuo is that big of a deal. He's the only guy in the game that's blocking it with Windwall, right? And then even then you can just E him in his face. I think I'd probably go Blitzcrank. And then we're playing pick. Because it's already so hard to play engage into this, we're expecting maybe more disengage into this. So maybe I'd ban Blitzcrank instead of like Braum. I don't think Braum is that big of an issue. It does signal that we're looking to pick up some engage though. We're banning Gragas and Thresh. I think here with the Thresh ban, we've not identified that this Poppy is probably going support into Callista. That's generally where Poppy's going to go when you see Poppy drafted into Callista. I would be looking to ban out primarily disengaged tops. I think the Gragas is really good. What else? What else would I ban from top lane? Maybe Cassante. Maybe like a Cassante ban. I think Cassante on 4 could be really good for this team. That's assuming you're not putting Yasuo top though. I guess maybe you want to hold top to R5 and pick jungle. Break this jungle support flex. So maybe you ban a disengaged jungler like a Kindred or a Maokai. Yas Maokai is pretty nice. You can ban something like that. Maybe an Udyr too. You could play Udyr. That might be quite nice. I think Gragas is really good though. It's disengage top, disengage jungle, plays really nicely with the Yasuo. I like this ban a lot. We end up going Diana. So now we're moving more into engage with this Yasuo Diana. Poppy's going to find it kind of hard to follow, but she's blocking Callista and Jarvan, so her job's kind of done in this draft. Even as just a lane answer to Callista, it just slows down Callista so much. We pick Renata, which I do think Callista Renata is like, it's going to do okay into Jinx Poppy. The Poppy is just going to stop this Callista Renata being a powerhouse of a lane. It's going to stop them completely snowballing on you. And I think at this point, this Callista maybe has to be lethality. Actually, no, I can probably go on hit and kite back against this and this, and DPS through this. We also pick up Jax. Jax is great into this. Jax is great into this. We're also very, very heavily auto-attack reliant. So I do like Jax in concept. The issue I have with Jax is that, one, it's never going mid. Which means this is top, which means this is mid, which means this knows to go mid and not to go top, which means that this can be top counter, which means that Jax is getting counterpicked. And in terms of what I would counterpick Jax with here, I would pretty much always, with this, and this going forward and wombo comboing, I think this should be canon. It just completely destroys Jax in lane, and it's really nice thematically into our draft. Although it's not the best into Renata, I guess. But I do think Kennen would be really good. I also think Vladimir's okay. It loses very, very early into Jax, and then it very quickly starts winning around level 5 or so. Jax can't really do much about it. I do think the Vladimir's okay. He can kind of struggle to follow this. He much prefers when things are coming into him. So, on the upside though, this is going into him. This is going into him. So, you know, Vladimir has value here. I think Kennen would just be a better version of Vladimir here, though. In all likelihood. So, what do we have? We have Yas versus Aurora. I think this is Yas favored. We have Jarvan versus Diana in jungle. This is very, very Diana favored in terms of pacing and clearing camps. We're also playing Callista Renata into Jinx Poppy. I think this is a bit of a nothing lane. They can play off of a dive, and that's kind of it. And then we have Jax into Vlad, which is losing for Jax. So we kind of have two winning lanes here, a neutral lane here, and a jungle that outfarms. And thematically, we are kind of forced to go all in on this team, with Renata being like losing a lot of her value because it's Renata are going forwards instead of backwards, but she's putting W on someone. This is a very, very like engage heavy comp. But we have Poppy, we have Vladimir. Diana's happy to stand her ground. Jinx is happy to stand her ground. Yasuo's kind of awkward. He's just going to ult off of this though. He has set up, so yeah, I do think Red are winning this draft. To avoid this, if you do want to draft this line, get rid of this. Yeah. Just get rid of the Poppy, because it's so weak to Poppy, the line that you're doing. Like, specifically Poppy as well. It's also quite weak to Braum, but it's not as weak to Braum as it is to Poppy. It's so weak to Poppy. So yeah, if you want to draft this line early, go for it, but ban out Poppy. Cover yourself. Cover yourself with your ban. That would be ideal. Now let's move into the final draft. Okay. We're getting rid of Ashe and Ivern. None of the big ones here. So we've got Leona left, we've got Varus left, and we have Rumble left. Leona, Varus, Rumble. Jinx B1, we're signaling sort of high range kite back. Jarvan Rumble. Really nice into the Jinx. Blocked by Poppy, but Poppy's banned on blue side. So we're actually hurt, kind of similar to what the Ivern did, where we picked Ivern and banned Poppy. We're kind of hurting ourselves because we're banning the counter to our counter, right? So Jinx really struggles into this Jarvan Rumble. It's very hard for her to play, and if things continue going in a way where this Jarvan Rumble have value, I really like Orianna to come in, and it just becomes very, very difficult to play. Because we have the Jarvan, we end up going for the Ahri to have some mobility in mid lane. I feel like Azir would just be a better pick. It has better disengage tools, and it still has the mobility to get out of the Jarvan ult. I feel like Azir would be my go-to pick here. We'll play Jinx Azir, and we'll try and disengage with the Azir ult, and then we'll pick a disengage jungle. Now we go Kindred. I think Kindred is okay, actually. It's going to be in the Jarvan ult, dropping the Kindred ult. Yeah, Kindred's okay. You could also look for like Mao. You could look for, I mean, Poppy would be perfect, right? I don't think, like, if this is Jarvan and this Poppy's open, then you just go Poppy Azir, and you're really, really happy. In terms of other disengage themed jungles, you could play Azir with like Skarner. Could be pretty solid into what's being shown. You could play Azir with. We want AD. That's the difficulty. We want AD. I think Azir Wukong would be fine as well. You could play Azir Wukong, Azir Skarner. With the Jinx, that would be pretty nice. You could play Bel'Veth too, but Bel'Veth's difficult because we're not going to get push if we're picking Azir Jinx. So I don't really like the Bel'Veth that much. Yeah, I'd be looking at like Azir Skarner. Or Azir Wukong. Or also you can go Azir Kindred, but then you don't really have any frontline, which is kind of scary until it's being shown. But we end up going Ahri Kindred. We pick up Talia. Talia's really nice with the E into this and this. It can also create more terrain with the Jarvan, which can cut off and create flanks and keep people in Rumble. So it has really good synergy with what we're showing. We're showing sort of dive in, right? We're showing dive in. What do we end up banning? The great thing for us is that Brome's already gone. We would like to ban that on red side, but it's already gone. We ban out Milio. This is a solid disengaged champ that comes in with Jinx, though I do think it's kind of vulnerable to Jarvan Rumble. Again, I also think Lulu is kind of vulnerable to Jarvan Jungle, so I don't think you need to ban that. I think Taric would be really nice, especially with Kindred. You can play Kindred Taric. Taric might be a good ban for red side here. Kindred Taric, obviously, a really, really potent combo because your entire team is invincible after the Kindred ult ends, and theirs is not. So yeah, I think Taric, Alistar, I really like. Alistar's great into what we're showing. Very, very tanky, very good disengage tools. Love it. We end up going for MF. This is covered by the Braum being banned away already, which is great. It has great synergy with what we're showing. It wins lane into Jinx into pretty much any support matchup. Yeah, just really nice. Really, really synergistic 1, 2, 3, 4 so far, and we don't really have too much counter in it. We have Kindred ult and we have Ahri's kind of slippery, and that's it. So really liking red. We end up going Trundle. This doesn't really do anything to stop any of this. It kind of just gets caught in this, honestly, and it takes some resists off Jarvan, and that's kind of it. Now we do pick up Illaoi. This Illaoi enjoys playing into Jarvan, but she doesn't enjoy playing into Talia. She doesn't enjoy playing into Rumble because the lane is really, really bad for Illaoi. Rumble just completely destroys her. Oh, I didn't talk about blue bans, by the way. We're banning engaged supports, right? We're banning Leona Blitz. I think Rel is really nice on blue team. Like, you go in with the Jarvan Rumble and the Talia and MF ult, and then Rel waits until the Kindred ult ends, and then Rel WRs the Kindred ult at the end of it. I think Rel would be really nice on red side with MF as well. But yeah, Illaoi can't really play into MF very well, can't really play into Talia very well, can't play into Rumble very well. It just likes engage, but it likes melee engage. This is like range engage. This is not a good Illaoi spot, in my opinion. I think you want something like, I mean, you want some of these supports, right? I think you want Taric for sure. And then with your Taric, in terms of your top lane pick, you're playing into Rumble, potentially, though you may also be playing into like whatever comes on R5. I think you could go Udyr. I kind of like Udyr here. Udyr is a very, very good matchup into the Rumble in isolation. It does get trapped by the Jarvan and Talia walls, though. That is one weakness of it. You could also play... What else is really good into Rumble? I mean, Set's not good into Rumble, but you could play Set, and it would be okay. You could also play... Yeah, I think I would probably just go Udyr, to be honest. I would go Udyr Taric. Although the Udyr Taric thing with Kindred and Jinx would be so nice if we had Azir, but obviously we picked up this Ahri earlier. But I still think it's maybe our best line. Udyr is just going to be fighting whoever's inside the Jarvan, right? Maybe Udyr. No, maybe Udyr is too hard to play with Jarvan Talia. Terrain creation. Yeah, I guess maybe the best line is actually... Oh, it's so hard though, because if you pick K'Sante, you're playing K'Sante into Rumble. I think we're in a very, very bad spot with Red. I think this should definitely be Taric. Maybe you can go Gragas. You can probably go Gragas, and you're okay. Gragas can survive into Rumble. And there's not really too much on R5 that hard counters Gragas. So I'd probably go Taric Gragas at this point. I think that's maybe the best line out of this bad situation. But then we end up picking up Nico. Now we've got Nico MF. Nico fills a very similar role to Rel while being less melee into the Illaoi, which is really good. So I actually really like this Nico here. And I would assume it's Nico MF bot lane. I think that's the best way to play it. Because with Nico MF bot lane, we're playing Rumble into Illaoi, which is like hard winning. So yeah, I think on this one, I'm definitely giving it to red. Definitely things blue could have done to not lose as hard. But yeah, that will be the video. So thank you for watching the third installment of the community draft battles. And again, if you want to get involved, join the Discord and grab the role, and maybe you will be in the next video. So thank you for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Goodbye.